Hi guys, good morning everyone. I don't know how this is going to work because I cannot see a lot of you, and I'm trying to figure out how many people have joined, and there's no way for me to see that. I do see folks if you are on the chat side, so I see few folks on the chat side. So, hi, my name is Bhupi Sondi, and I'm going to be presenting with Craig Husha here, and we both work at Oracle. So we're going to be talking about Kibana. It's a 30-minute session, so it's going to be pretty rapid. We're going to cover, most of the inner grounds of the Kibana. In the meantime, as you guys have questions, try to use Q&A to put your questions through that. So Craig is going to try and answer that as the session goes on. And if there's something else, we will stay back after the 30 minutes are over so we can answer any further questions. If there are more questions, I'm sure we'll figure out a way to get them answered later on. So with that, I'll just start the presentation. Okay, I hope you guys can see this. Craig, you can see my screen, right? Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes. I'm sorry, Bhupi. I can see you
Okay, all right, okay.
on your screen.
So yeah, we're talking about the inner workings of Kibana visualization for PeopleSoft Financials. Well, this is the standard text, and you may have seen it in multiple places. Basically, what this means is what we are talking here. Most of the stuff actually we are talking today is already released, but there could be a few things we may say, and we're not going to try and give you any time frame on those because things can change. But that's we are working towards an overall plan on those. So let's go to the next slide if I can. Gosh, my screen is just frozen. Okay, so that's the agenda. What is Kibana? We're going to talk about Kibana and PeopleSoft, some of the key terms. How do you create a dashboard? Since we've heard a lot of people say that if you do through VPN and go to your work and do a live demo, it really slows things down. So what we've done is instead of that, we have all the slides and the screenshots. So we're going to walk through those and leave you with few other considerations, and then we can open up for Q&A. One thing which is obviously worth saying over here is a picture is worth a multi-million lines. And I'm sure some of you guys have those multi-million lines which need to be aggregated on a basis of various formats, etc. So that's where Kibana plays its role because it's an open source data visualization tool. They do have a paid version, but we focus primarily on the open source. If you needed to use some of the paid versions, which will not be covered today, you're welcome to contact Elasticsearch or work through our licensing team, and they can figure out how you can use those. It's primarily a Java-based UI, which offers rich analytics and data introspection tool. Since it's a JavaScript-based UI, that means it's a browser heavy. So it brings the data to a large extent aggregated, but a lot of the richness of the tool is in your laptop or whatever else tool you use to download the stuff. It's offered as part of what's called as ELK, Elasticsearch, Logstash, and Kibana. And actually, originally, Kibana was a tool built for Logstash. Logstash is a way where, in a web farm, you can log, as logs happen, it aggregates all the logs into one place, and Kibana gives an ability for people to introspect the logs. But as more and more we were working with this, we realized this is a wonderful tool and can be used in multiple other places, and especially in business analytics. This would be a very handy tool. So that's how this came up to be used in our areas. So yeah, so another thing is Kibana only works on Elasticsearch index data, so it will not be going directly to your tables. That means you can only build Kibana dashboards on what you have put in Elasticsearch index. So with that, as we've gone through in the last few images, we have added a lot more indexes into this particular tool. And it's packaged with PeopleTools, so it comes ready with 858 to be deployed. In fact, that's probably the next slide, and we'll talk a little bit about that. So obviously, what are the advantages of Kibana? We just talked a little bit. It offers rich visualizations like a pie, heat map, an area, horizontal and vertical bar, line graphs. You can also build gauges. You can do goal comparisons, basic metrics, and data table. Data table is pretty popular with us. And in fact, there's an alternative to data tables, which is also called save searches. So we also use that. We kind of go between the two. It's very simple and easy to understand. It can automatically do conversion of visualization and dashboards into reports if you want to email them to somebody or take it to your teams, or you want to put it, well, we are not anymore in the offices, most of us, but if you wanted to put it on your walls, sure you could, right? And it's got this beautiful time series aspect, and that's a cool advantage. It's a date picker, what we're talking here about, and it gives you an ability to see data sets as they have progressed over a period of time. So that's one thing which usually was never ever before this so easily available directly on a transaction system, on an OLTP system. We've never had that ability without sacrificing performance. So that's why this adds to its advantages. And it has map capabilities. Obviously, in financials, we don't use map that much, but I know HCM uses map, and some other teams are using maps. So here is a very simplistic view of how PeopleSoft and Kibana Kibana and Elasticsearch work together. So the first thing what happens is, as the data is entered into PeopleSoft, either through a user interface or you're doing an Excel import, or it's coming from a third-party interface, right? Where, like in GL, there are so many third-party systems, and you do a GL interface and do the journal creation and journal, and it becomes to ledger. All that data is getting into a database. Same thing if you're in AP, you may have 8-10 EDIs coming in or XML invoices coming in through the interface, and then through voucher bill, they become a voucher. So all that data, what happens is, through PTSF, which is PeopleTools Search Framework, we actually go ahead and create Elasticsearch indexes for those. And once that is accomplished, then when you log in through Fluid homepage or dashboard, basically what it does is, it again through PTSF, and PTSF also provides a login and data auth pub plugin. It goes through Kibana, which eventually goes to the index, gets the data, curates the data. So if you only have, let's say, BU1 and BU2 access, and it's only going to bring in the data for BU1 and BU2 and then display it on your page. So and we'll go through some of these screenshots, which will probably make this more clear. But that's a very simplistic view of how we've implemented Kibana in the PeopleSoft frame. So for large purposes, when you guys deploy Elasticsearch, it automatically also deploys Kibana in large purposes. And it is on a separate server, or maybe on the same server in a VM cluster, along with where you have your PeopleSoft instance. Here's what happens. Now, once everything is built out, and I signed into a PeopleSoft instance. This is a PeopleSoft Fluid page, and we created a Kibana homepage. And in this one, I have a 4 tiles over here. All of them actually lead to Kibana, but you could also mix and match. You could have one tile coming from your regular data structures or from a pivot grid, another one coming from Kibana, third one maybe just an announcement or whatever else, right? I mean, period is going to close on October 20th. Please get your data in or whatever else, right? So those kind of things, if you have notifications, you can do those. And, so you can do a mix and match. So that's kind of how it's so easily being adapted into the PeopleSoft ecosystem. Now, once I clicked on a tile called trend analysis, I'm taken to this trend analysis, AP trend analysis, and this is a frame which is coming from the Kibana dashboard, but it's still sitting in the PeopleSoft. So if you look at the top, it's got all the PeopleSoft band and everything. And depending upon your roles and permissions and things like that, you could either open in Kibana or you can just view here, whatever you want to do. But it's the first set where this particular page, of course, I'm not going to go too much into the functionality of everything, but this particular page is telling us, look, we've had invoices coming in through probably, this is the October of last year till date. So it's 1 year and it's a year ago, right? So basically it's telling you how it has trended. You got, in US dollar, you got like about, you peaked around the, fifth month or sixth month of this year. And then you kind of have tanked down. Obviously, if it's October, it's just the beginning of October. So that's why you see this tanking down of the green, blue, and dark blue line. And on the side, it also shows you how the business units are behaving along with the data set, and purple being the highest. Of course, US 001 is our most popular sample data business unit. And in the bottom here, this is actually what's called as a safe search. You could even use a data table, which shows you some of the timeline when it came in along with the voucher, and there's a way to drill back into PeopleSoft from here. This is where you've got all your time series and time picker. So basically, you can have multiple options, and the coolest part is you can even go to the last 100 years. Not that I want you to, or I was not even here 100 years ago, or maybe PeopleSoft was not here 100 years ago, but it gives you those cool things to look at the data from the inception of time, or maybe in the last month or last quarter, or whatever else you have here. And you can also add filters. So you can pick a field and you can have greater than, less than, whatever else. I just picked is US 001, and I can save this and it will regenerate the entire page based on that data set. Okay, so going to PeopleSoft and Kibana, prior to 858, PeopleSoft did offer Kibana, but that was only for the indexing part and for administration. With 858 plus, it's 85804 probably, or 85805, I don't have the exact version number, and Elasticsearch 7, which is the same thing as Kibana 7, which comes built into, along with, which is not built in, I should say, which is bundled along with the 858. You've got a lot of the capabilities we're talking on. So it's got the log on plugin, and that gives you an ability to use the same user ID and password you have for PeopleSoft to log into Kibana, or for your users to log into Kibana. And it has data authorization plugins. So there is row level security, which you may have implemented BU or set ID. All that gets perpetuated there. And the roles are also delivered. So every application has delivered multiple roles for their respective area. One of the biggest one, which is probably common across, is Kibana Administrator. But then products have built other roles for various, so that you can scale up or scale down the access for people in those areas. Along with it, because of the way we are building it, we have an ability for you to use the dashboard we have delivered, and you can deploy them. That means you can use what we've sent sacrosanct and deploy them, or you can change and do whatever else and still deploy them. You can mix and match tiles from database search and Kibana on the same fluid dashboard, and it's like a hybrid mode if you wanted to do that. And you can view Kibana dashboard within PeopleSoft. I just showed you that. And we have a lot of applications that have already delivered dashboard, and some are in the works as we speak. And I would recommend you look at the release proposition value if you're so inclined. Is your product on having a dashboard planned or not? They should be stated over there what's coming through in the next 18 months. So here are the few key terms. Obviously, there's a lot more, but things which we will be referring to within the PeopleSoft ecosystem. And as I said earlier, we do not cover anything which is paid. This is all open source, and all the stuff we are covering, there's a lot more in Kibana, right? So we're not going to cover those. So the first is index and index pattern. Index obviously is what you index on Elasticsearch. That is the first index. Index pattern is built on the indexes you built on the Elasticsearch, and it allows you to do a few more things, such as you can add more fields to it, you can do derivations, you can also do what's called as a time series. So we have a slide on it, so you will see how you can create time series or non-time series index patterns. And obviously fields are part of the index, for you can map them to individual tables. Filter is a way for you to reduce your search data, just like any other filter which you use in PeopleSoft. Query, there's a request for info in Elasticsearch, and also Kibana does allow you to use what they call as KQL. We don't use it that much, but it is an ability for you to write Kibana queries against Elasticsearch datasets. Discover is one of the other things you will see. If you see the Kibana dashboard or Kibana itself, one of the tabs is Discover. It allows you to introspect your data set and be able to do some minor aggregations or look at things, and you can create what's called as a safe search out of them. Visualizations is another cool thing which you can have, like pie, line graph, or horizontal or vertical graph, etc., histograms and things like that. Dashboard is a collection of visualization, safe searches, and maps. So that's where eventually the presentation layer you're going to present within PeopleSoft, or we present, is the dashboard. But dashboard usually is covered through safe searches, visualization, and maps. All right, creating a dashboard. So there's a few steps of creating a dashboard. So the first few steps are within Kibana itself, and then there are a few steps you have to make it in PeopleSoft, so you can bring it into PeopleSoft and be able to work on the both sides of the aisle and be able to transition between PeopleSoft and Kibana. So the first one is you have to either add or select an index pattern. And that's where you will have to make a decision on your dashboard whether you want it a time series based or you want a non-time series based. So time series based is where you want to say, hey, I want to see as things come in. So like in AP's example, what they've got is they've created this dashboard which can tell you how data sets came in the last, let's say, 60 days, and also what are the streams. So here is what came in through EDI 810. Here is what came through XML invoices. Here's what was entered online. And it'll kind of show you the volumes or the amounts or things or certain sets. So that way it gives you a time series based on that. In a non-time based, which is what we typically do in most of the business intelligence analytics based on transaction system, it's very similar, where I want to know what is it today. I don't care what it was 3 days ago or 3 months ago. I just need to know what is it today. So it's in this point of time, what you see the data is what you see the data, right? That's one of the things. And you can add visualization. You have to add visualization, obviously. So and that's based on the index pattern. Um, and we recommend that you use the same index pattern for all the visualization in one dashboard. If you don't, then it has to do a key map. As long as the key maps are the same, then it's okay. Otherwise, it will not have the recommended behavior, because whether you change a pattern, it may or may not change all the visualization correctly, etc. So our recommendation is try to use one index pattern for all the visualization in the dashboard. And you can then obviously eventually add to your visualization or save searches onto the dashboard, and you're ready with the dashboard. Then in PeopleSoft, you have to import the dashboard into PeopleSoft Kibana Dashboard. You have to define content reference details, and you need to define Kibana privileges. I'm not going to cover the PeopleSoft in this particular set of presentation because of time, but overall, we're going to go through the steps on the first set of the steps. And if you want to get more, there's a lot more information in PeopleBooks, and I have a few links for you guys to take from here. So here is how you create an index pattern. Number one, you will click on that particular gear arrow. Number two, it'll basically, when you click the gear arrow, it shows you this page, which got all the index patterns and all the index listed there. So if you wanted to just see the index pattern, you would click over here. It'll show you the index pattern. But if you want to create a brand new index, you have to start from here. You create a new index, and then it brings you this page. And over here, for creating a new index pattern, firstly, you will have to select only one index. So as you type this list will get smaller and smaller till it gets to the one you need. And then you press next step. So this is where you're presented with your index pattern settings. So that there are two ways of doing this. I'm going to cover the ones firstly in the red at the bottom of the page, which is I do not want to use time filter. If you want point in time for this index pattern, then you use this part and basically make sure that you move ahead. Or if you want to use a time filter, then what it does is it goes into the index, pulls up all the date related fields, so you can pick the appropriate field over here. Now, as you may have thought about it and scratching your head like I was, I'm seeing the same field repeated twice. Actually, in the index we create through PeopleTools PTSF, every field is represented in 4 different fields. These are the 2 fields which is only related to date, and these are the only fields which are available for you to index on. So here are the 4 fields created within the Elasticsearch from the field on our site. So if this was, let's say, business unit, or you can name anything, supplier ID, supplier name, there will be 4 fields of it. Some of these fields are necessary just for keyword search. Some of these fields are more for Elasticsearch, I mean for Kibana. And what I'm referring to in these fields, these are primarily on the alphanumeric data set. For date fields, it's a little different, and I showed you in the front. Either it'll be showing you the ES or the KW. So usually for your set of alphanumeric fields, you will be using non-analyzed or single keyword fields. The other ones are primarily used for Elasticsearch. So here's an example of an index pattern which is created. And it shows you the pattern name is, I mean, the index pattern is EPAP payments. Time filter and field name is creation date Oracle ESENG. So ES means it's just a regular one. So basically that's what it will create. And on the bottom, it shows all the fields it's got from this particular index. This data set and what it can do from format, search, aggregatable is coming from the map which PTSF has set up as part of their setup with Elasticsearch. The other cool thing you can do is you can create scripted fields. So the scripted fields can be created where you can actually add to columns, you can derive data sets out of multiple columns, you can do all kinds of gizmos. However, we as PeopleSoft in our own internal performance testing have determined that the most of the time the way Kibana works is it aggregates it at a group level. That means it does a whole grouping and does the aggregation. But if you use scripted fields, then it has to calculate it row by row. So since it needs to calculate row by row, the performance really comes down to its knees. So we have recommended, and we only use to create labels on the scripted fields, and that's what we deliver. If you needed to do some calculation or some stuff, our recommendation, if you're creating your own custom indexes or you want to add stuff to our indexes, that you do in the index creation itself or prior to index creation, and not do it here because it will otherwise have some performance impact, and all it depends upon your data set. If you are talking like 100 million rows, obviously it's going to be very slow. But if you're talking only 1,000 rows or 20,000 rows, then that's fine, right? So it all depends on data set. It depends upon what you're looking at. So creating a dashboard visualization, that's the next step. So first thing is you will select the visualization. You can select any of the ones listed here. There are two which are called experimental. We do use controls in the GL, but the other ones we don't. And another one here is Time Leon, which is also called as timeline. Actually, Time Leon means time lion, but it's like lion. So we don't use it at all in PeopleSoft, and we've not been very engaged with that part. But other ones have been used a lot. So you might see those in the area. And also the Vega hasn't been used that much. Once you choose, so I over here chose the vertical bar, the next thing is I need to select the index pattern, and I selected the index pattern over there. And then I'm presented with this particular thing. What do I want to show in the x-axis? And the first thing I need to do is, what is the aggregation? I said it's term. And I created a scripted field called user, so it's going to show me the user. And then I want to order it. What do you want to order it? I'm saying show me all the users with the top counts, right? So that's where you want to make sure that you want to do the order by a metric count. If you do alphanumeric, then it's going to have the username sorted. It won't be by the count. So we wanted to get through the count. And I said, show me only 5. So that's the size 5, which comes in a descending order. Since I picked 5, what it's going to do is allow me to group other values. That means if there are more than 5 users in an other bucket, which I can further drill down. But once again, for performance reasons, we do not come check mark within all our dashboards within PeopleSoft. Your situation may be different. You can try it out. You can add the other group, see if it's not a performance impact, go for it. Otherwise, don't use it. Our recommendation is that that doesn't behave very well. You're better off increasing the number by the increasing the size if that's what you wanted it, but that other values doesn't work very well. So and of course, then what you want to show on the y-axis, and over here is the count of the journal lines. So want to see in this particular thing, okay, who are the top users? How many lines are they creating? Just as an example, that's the visualization we created. Once we create the visualization, it shows me all the visualization, who's created how many. Obviously, it seems like Kenneth Schumacher has been very busy. He's created over 85,000 lines. And Sriram is the next person. And Teresa and Barbara are pretty much, straggling along. And then Linda is somewhere at a very low number. So that's what it's telling me in my data set over there. Same thing, once you've done the visualizations you need, you create the dashboard, and then you add panels. Panels are basically those visualization and save searches on the dashboard. And you can create that, and then you save the dashboard. The other thing to check mark is store time with the dashboard. If you don't, then obviously you have to come back and redo your the time series again, or time filter again. If you do this, then it will always store whatever the last time you did, and the dashboard is correctly loaded. So you want it to do every day, today's date, then you store that. So that's one of the things we ended up doing, store time with dashboard. And this is just an example. We only had one visualization, so we created a dashboard with just one visualization. But of course, you will have more, so you will add up over here. And as I had said previously, we recommend that you create dashboard from one index pattern for uniform view. So this is the last slide, a tile view versus full view. So we create both for every Kibana dashboard. The full view is used in a dashboard mode and has lots and lots of visualization and safe searches. Tile view is used with only one visualization because it is used to extract and present it in the fluid tile. So if you go back to my first page, where I showed you the page, when you're seeing the Kibana tiles, each of them is a dashboard by itself called dashboard tile. Versus when you click on it and go inside, then you see the equivalent dashboard with all the tiles. I'm going to leave you with some of the other things here. So if you go to our information portal, it's got pretty cool videos and some of the other things. Here are two of the ones which we've already done. On June of this year, we had shown how to use the payables, and then in 15-20 days ago, we also released on the GL side. And all this is what's been released, and there's more to come, and there's probably more in there from HCM and other products. And this is your doc center. It's part of the People Books, and it's got inside there where you can see the Kibana analytics using Elasticsearch, and it's got all the documentation there. All right, with that, any Q&A? I think we may have ran over time, but go ahead. Craig, do you see any questions?
I haven't seen any yet.
I see 6. Will we receive a copy of this presentation? Yes. Lisa says, thank you. Right, so, okay. So there is some more about the giving the authorization to the person who needs to access Kibana, view, administrator view, or view access. So you may only want people to have just the view access. So there is a way we've given based on the roles and security how you can do that, right? The other thing is, which probably I referred to, but I should have said it. You see whatever is in Elasticsearch. So if it was last indexed earlier this morning, 6 a.m. in the morning, then you will not see anything which came from 6 a.m. till what it is right now. It's about 10 o'clock. But if you keep indexing it, there's a latency, basically. That's what it is. That if you index it as close to real time, then you will see whatever is till the latest part. And that's one of the things where, no, it is not real time right now, but it is close to real time, as good as it can get in terms of how, when did you last index it. So I think that was another question on that one. Yes, so is there any specific PA security required to access Kibana via PIA? So that is what I was saying, the special roles and we've got delivered. And it's all in the people books also. So we talked a little bit. Any other question, or Craig, you want to answer add anything else?
No, I just found the Q&A tab, and I'm viewing the questions now.
Okay.
Yeah, like Mupi had said, we use your PeopleSoft user ID to give access or prevent editing. We've established 2 different roles. It's what AP Kibana view privilege and an AP Kibana edit privilege. The edit privilege would be able to clone dashboards and make changes and save them, whereas the view would just be a viewer of those dashboards.
All right. Anything else, guys? Feel free to put your question in the Q&A, please, or you can do in chat. We'll wait for another minute if there's any more questions. Thank you for joining. Hopefully you've found this to be helping you, and we would definitely like you to at least try in a POC mode, if nothing else, where you can download the latest image and put it on your, whether it's a VirtualBox or a DPK, and deploy it and play with it. So at least you can show it to your rest of your team, what it can offer you or not offer you. So that's the other thing. I don't see any more questions. All right. Thank you, guys. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate you coming on board, and hope you enjoy the rest of the Reconnect. And thanks for supporting PeopleSoft.